Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Here we go. Morning, everyone. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. The Vent has made an appearance. I don't know about you, but Microsoft. We love Microsoft. It makes our world go round, but at the same time, so my computer updated, right? And somehow during the update, this most recent update I waited like 6 weeks to do, which it finally forced me to do yesterday. I did this update, and now the controls of my camera no longer work. The controls work, but I have to now go through, as you can see here, I have to now go through Microsoft to control my camera. So not Logitech, who actually makes the camera, who uses the controls and everything like that. Now I have to go through the app on the computer that Microsoft has. So if we see the vent, it's Microsoft's fault 100% at this point. I don't understand how we do it. I say this all the time. Why updates screw things up? Updates are to fix problems. They're not to create problems. So to reiterate, my camera, I no longer have control of my camera through Logitech, which is who makes this camera, who I've used forever. I now have to go through the app that Microsoft provides. Great work, Microsoft. There we go. See? Great work, Microsoft. Really appreciate you. I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. I'm here with you Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. This show, Fantasy Sports Daily, is with you every day, Monday through Friday. We go about an hour. I'm not even going to worry about it. The vent's going to be part of the show today. I'm just had one of those mornings, folks. And yeah, here we go. So, yep. Vent hype. Dumb technology correct. And vent hype. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. This show, again, is Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FG. We're here every day, Monday through Friday. We go about an hour each day. On Fridays, we visit with Russell Clay. We'll do that here in about 30 minutes. Most of the guests come in about halfway through the show. Let me throw up on the screen what we're doing today. Maybe I'll just leave my face small today so it doesn't look as bad. Just see me in the vent. Embrace the vent, Ray. Well, yeah, we do have to embrace the vent. And I'm going to vent my frustration at Microsoft. Today, what are we doing? We'll review Thursday Night Football. Jets and Patriots. The game went about as expected, 27-14. The Patriots moved to 9-2 with the victory. We'll review that game. We got a lot of injury news this week, and it's your double-digit weeks and all that kind of stuff. Some of the injury news is good. Some guys going back on the field, Purdy, Pearsal. Some guys maybe getting back out on the field, Bucky, Irving. Some guys, going in the other direction. Dalton, Kincaid, Dalton, Schultz, Sam LaPorta. We'll talk a little bit about that. And again, in about 25 minutes, we will visit with Russell Clay. We'll talk a little bit about some Week 11 storylines. As you can see there, a couple of quarterbacks, McCarthy and Flacco, backfield situations for Jeanty, Etienne, Jaylen Warren, the wide receivers. Everyone hates A.J. Brown. They love DeVonta Smith. Is that how Russ sees it? Jauan, Jennings, Wan'Dale Robinson, Theo Johnson, and Colston, Loveland. Here we go. All right. By the way, before we even get further into this one, it is that time. And that time is deal time over at FantasyGuru.com. Jeff Mann said this yesterday. And again, I don't know. I'm not involved in all the pluses and minuses. But he said yesterday this deal is not going to last forever. So what we got right now is a great deal over at FantasyGuru.com. You get signed up for the all-in package. You get everything we do for college football, everything we do for pro football. When I say everything, I mean all of it. Whether we're doing seasonal rankings and writing articles, whether you're putting together a DFS squad, whether you're laying some bets, all three aspects, seasonal, DFS, and wagering, all of them, one package, one price, $99.99 the rest of the way. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. Send an email to support@fantasyguru.com. Ted and crew will help you out there. Support@fantasyguru.com. Any questions, comments, concerns, ups and downs, that is the place to be. You're also aware, I'm sure, of the fact that we have our MVP plan available right now. And that MVP plan is basically everything we do besides football. So that's hockey, basketball, NASCAR, PGA, MMA, horse racing, all of those, soccer, all of those other sports. Those are the MVP plans. So click the subscribe tab in the top right corner, get signed up, get all those sports in one package, or get that football package that you see there on the screen. Oh, and by the way, here we go. Let's get it back there. I think I'm just going to leave me small. We're going to leave me small. I'm not a small person, but we're going to leave me small today. Let's see. Do we need the vent? Maybe I can move them here. I can take myself off the screen, put myself here. I can do this. I can do that. Let's just do this. All right. You can still see the vent. Let's do that. By the way, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, because you go to fantasyguru.com, you just click the Elite Plus tab in that top toolbar and you listen to the show in podcast form, or because you've got us cataloged wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube Music, because you just listen to us as a podcast. You can also watch us in 3 places: youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, Twitter X @FantasyGuru site, facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. In those 3 places, we give comments and questions, as you've seen already, that we can address throughout the show. And you can obviously watch the show at any point on demand because they're storing everything that's going on there. Again, the Patriots won this game, moved to 9-2. The Jets fall to 2-8. The results that we expected. Justin Fields, starting on the Jets side, he was fine. He was fine. And there's nothing wrong with being fine. Now, it's not good enough to win football games, but when you're the Jets and you don't have a receiver, Garrett Wilson's now on the IR for at least 4 weeks. Season could be over for Garrett Wilson with that knee injury. The Jets fall to 2-8. They're going nowhere. He's going to be first eligible to return, basically fantasy playoffs. Do we want that? So could they shut him down? Yeah, they very well, because they could, when he's ready to return, they might still have 2 victories, right? So we don't know if we're going to see him back on the field again. But so that makes it very difficult for Justin Fields to have success without his number 1 weapon. They didn't give him a lot of weapons behind that. We've known that. We've talked about that here on the show many times. Fields ran for 67 yards and a touchdown, which is really nice. Threw for 116 yards and a touchdown. Didn't have an interception. Is it still 1 interception and it's like 1 interception in 360 attempts? And I'm not sitting here. I'm not Mr. Fields, and I'm not telling you he's better than he is or anything. There's still issues here. There's no doubt about that. But it's 2 interceptions in 365 attempts. It's pretty good. When you're the number one thing of the game here is obviously not turning the ball over, right? He's done a really good. There's some fumbles in there, so I'm not going to say he's Mr. Perfect, because he ain't. But hey, still pretty good work there, at least in terms of the turnover. The rest of the offense on the ground, Breece Hall was the only game in town. Isaiah Davis only had 2 touches, so it was 90% of the work went to Breece Hall. Unfortunately, it was a very moderate effort. Patriots obviously could make the argument the top 3 defensive teams in football against the run, maybe number 1. So it's not surprising that Hall didn't have a big night, but he's still, 4+ yards a carry. I think the real negative here is he only caught 2 passes for some reason, even though we saw last week, right, when Hall caught that pass in the backfield, basically line of scrimmage, and went, 40 yards for a touchdown. Got to get the ball in this guy's hands. You have like 2 playmakers on your offense. Now you're down to 1 playmaker. Well, 2 if you count Fields. You have 2 playmakers on your offense. Why aren't they getting the ball to Hall in space? It just doesn't, I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. Just what they're doing. It's kind of like Alvin Kamara with the Saints. It's like, I know you don't want to run an offense this way, Kellen Moore, but you got to get the ball to Alvin Kamara in space. Anyway. So Breece Hall was a disappointment, unfortunately. Guy on the other side, the running back, wow, what a huge effort there. But on this side, Breece Hall is a disappointment. In terms of pass catchers, the leading target getter was Adonai Mitchell in his first game with the Jets, 6 targets. We can live with 6 targets a week from him. 3-4 catches, 65, 70 yards, a touchdown here. We can live with that. We can't live with the multiple drops that he had last night. So that was just a bad game from him. I don't know if it's the pressure. I don't know if it's trying to improve, trying to impress, whatever it might be. You can't be dropping multiple passes in a game or you won't get the football thrown your way. Luckily for him, the Jets don't have any other options. Arian Smith and Lazard and all, and Williams, all the. So Mitchell, had a significant role last night, even though it's completely useless in the fantasy space. John Mechie, Jeff Mans talked about it multiple times this week on the Elite Sports Show. That's Monday through Friday from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. When I'm not here with you on Wednesdays, it's because I'm with Jeff from 2 to 5 on Wednesdays. Justin Frenchman hosts here on Wednesday. But yeah, Jeff talked multiple times about John Mechie, and he didn't do anything. Did lead the team with 45 receiving yards and did have the touchdown. Now, the defender fell over, so he was open by 20 feet on the touchdown. So he didn't really do anything, but he led the group in snaps. He led the group in routes run. He led the group in yards, and he scored the touchdown. So, I mean, he's going to be a significant part of this offense moving forward. Now, is a significant part of an offense that passes the ball for 130 yards a game worth anything? No. But John Mechie, you want to grab him off the waiver wire and make that dart throw in the future? Okay. But it's just not going to pay off long term. And then finally, Mason Taylor, 4 for 30 yards. Kind of where we're at with Mason Taylor. There was some hope and hype after a couple of big efforts in the middle of the season. But he's basically catching 4 passes for 35 yards. This is what he has become in this offense, which unfortunately for the Jets Makes him the number 2 pass catcher in this offense. On the other side for the Patriots, Drake May didn't have 2 touchdown passes, and he does that basically every week. I think that was only the second time in 10 outings that Drake May didn't have double-digit touchdown passes. So that was a little disappointing, but he was very good as expected. As expected, this team didn't have to push the ball a lot in the air. The fact that he had 280 passing yards was pretty good. The Patriots, obviously, they were up, 21-7 here halfway through the third quarter, and the game was over at that point if it wasn't over before. Stephon Diggs had 9 catches for 105 yards. That is the 4th straight game for Diggs where he scored a touchdown and hit 100 yards. And basically for the last half of the season, he's catching 6 passes for 65, 70 yards a week. There's some up and some downs in there. 3 of the last 4 games he has gotten in the end zone. All of those yardage totals were, I think, below 50. So, but the fact is Diggs is the number 1 receiver on this team. He's the number 1 target guy. He is the number 1 receiver. Kayshon Boutte was out last night. As a result of Boutte being out, we saw Matt Collins for the 2nd consecutive week take on a really significant role. In fact, Hollins led the receiving corps in snaps and routes run, actually more than Diggs, which is not surprising. Diggs doesn't play as many snaps as you would think for a top receiver. But Matt Collins, another solid game, 4 catches for 64 yards. Austin Hooper didn't play because of head injury, so those of you that use Hunter Henry, you got 8.5 points, 4 catches for 45 yards. He's got like 1 touchdown in 7 games. His scoring was really front-loaded this year and at home as well. But 4 for 45, I mean, if you played Henry last night, that's not a bad effort considering what we've seen for the last 6 weeks. Was it a good effort? No. It wasn't a bad effort. Obviously, I'm burying the lead here. And the lead is that Ramondre Stevenson didn't play, that Terrell Jennings was active but didn't play offense, that Dearness Johnson touched the ball 3 times. And here's Trevion Henderson. And, you look at his longest run last night was 9 yards. Now, he had multiple 50-plus yard touchdowns last week, right? So a long of 9 yards. So he didn't show that burst and breakaway speed that we know he possesses. Who cares? Still scored 3 touchdowns, right? 19 carries, 62 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Again, a very moderate game running the football, which could kind of be the case for him more often than not if he doesn't break that long one. But again, he had 2 touchdowns, so everything was fine. It was his involvement as a pass catcher that really took his game to the next level. He caught 5 balls for 31 yards and a touchdown. So for those people, and I know this was a question a lot of people had, and it was a fair question, Hall or Henderson? Ugh. If you went Henderson, yeah. You went Hall. So rough way to start the week if you were making that decision. As I said yesterday to a couple of people, both those guys should just be started every week. Breece Hall's an every week starter. He's always top 20, even in this matchup with the Patriots. Again, it wasn't a great effort, but he's always top 20. And then Trevion Henderson, with Stevenson out and Jennings beat up, should have been started. Anyway, huge effort for him. And now the real question is, when Ramondre Stevenson returns, does Ramondre Stevenson get 6 touches a week? Does he get 12 touches a week? Heaven forbid they actually flip things back in his direction and it's 14 touches for him and 9 for Henderson. I think Henderson's obviously finally proven to this coaching staff, God knows what took so long, finally proven to the coaching staff that obviously he's the most explosive player in the backfield without question, and that he needs to be on the football field with the ball in his hands. So great news for those people. Last 2 weeks, Henderson's coming through like a monster in the fantasy space. Again, I'm Ray Flowers of fantasyguru.com. Ethan says, crazy day at work. I love to watch later. I spy the air vent. Happy Friday. Yeah, you can watch anytime. Watch us later on, Ethan. Appreciate you. And the vent just for you. If you missed the description, I explain why the vent is making an appearance. It is at the start of the show. Okay, let's talk about some of the players here. We got about 20 minutes till we visit with Russell Clay of fantasyguru.com. Joins us every Friday. J.K. Dobbins. Let's go through the list of players. So let's start with I have Brock Purdy there. I think I switched it around, right? Yeah, let's just talk Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's going to start this week. And this is really good news for a variety of reasons. Number one, we know now, right? We don't need to wait until game time. So that's good news, number one. Number two, Purdy, there is that push and pull between Purdy and Mac Jones. Is there a significant difference between the two? No. Is Purdy better than Mac Jones? I'm going to say yes. I think that's a pretty fair, but it's not night and day, right? It's close. But everyone, I think, settles back in and feels more comfortable with Brock Purdy under center, and they can do some things a little bit differently there. They're still dealing with health at the wide receiver spot. We'll talk a little bit later about Pearsal, Brandon Ayuk, we're still hearing is going to play this season, but we have no idea when that's going to be. Jauan Jennings seems to be trending up. His health is finally improving. And remember, Purdy, just like we saw that Bourne Mac Jones thing for a bit, we've seen a lot of Purdy and Jennings. So those people that have Jennings, I think you should be feeling pretty good about this. There are many games where it's 8, 9, 10 targets from Purdy to Jauan Jennings. So if you got Jauan Jennings, you're feeling good. If you got Brock Purdy, 2 quarterback league, you're firing up. 1 quarterback league, you don't have to play him this week. He's not a superstar that I'm thinking. He's going 272 and 2 every week, right? So kind of depends on who you got there if you're making that decision with Brock Purdy. J.K. Dobbins, has anything changed in the last half hour? I was running around this morning, like I said. Let's see here. Do a quick little check of the news. Rolling through, scrolling through. Dalton Kincaid has been ruled out. He was on the list here. He's actually been ruled out. Just saw this news. Yeah, so I don't see anything. So officially, J.K. Dobbins could still play this week. I don't think anyone expects him to play this week. Officially, he has not been placed on the IR. We've heard that report has not actually happened. So at this point in time, obviously, you're not planning on using Dobbins, and who knows what the injury is or isn't with his foot. Harvey, you're obviously planning on playing. Batty and McLaughlin, we're not playing them. We've gone through this, but again, it's really weird, right, that we're still in limbo. We'll see if we get that further clarification with Dobbins today. Chris Rodriguez was practicing in full yesterday. He's got that shoulder issue, and this is an intriguing scenario that's kind of playing itself out. The Commanders don't have a lead running back. It's JCM, Bill, theoretically, and he usually leads the team, obviously, in touches out of the backfield. But he's not doing anything. He hasn't done anything in 6 weeks. He hasn't done anything. He's averaging 35 yards a game in the last 4 or whatever like that. Chris Rodriguez is getting more involved, and Chris Rodriguez is actually scoring some touchdowns here too. And it's starting to look a lot like Chris Rodriguez is getting goal line work. So a fractured backfield, because don't forget, McNichols plays a good amount too. He doesn't touch the ball that much, but he plays a good amount on third downs. This situation is spiraling into a 3-headed monster. 3-headed monsters are horrible from a fantasy perspective. The ascension of Rodriguez, the slow drift away from JCM, starting to look like almost an even Steven kind of thing, 50-50 here. We'll see. But yeah, great news for Rodriguez, and the Commanders looks like he's going to be able to play this week. Makes that backfield even muddier. Miami's run defense can be beat. So if you're in that desperation mode, your flex option, injuries, bye weeks, maybe Rodriguez is the guy you can turn to. Next up, Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving, we talked about this yesterday. We still don't have firm clarification on Bucky Irving this week, but he was limited the last 2 days in practice, coming back from that shoulder injury. I had someone ask me a question about Sean White this morning. We can't be answering Tucker, White, or Irving questions at this point. It's Monday morning. We don't have the information. We just can't answer the question at this point. So we have to wait to see. Today's going to be huge. Hopefully, the Buccaneers have been pretty good about this. They've been pretty good about being honest with us and open with us about the health of their players. And in fact, oftentimes ruling guys out like on Tuesdays and Thursdays and that kind of. So I think we'll probably get a sense of Bucky Irving's situation this week. As I've said earlier, if Bucky Irving plays, he is the running back to use. If Bucky Irving is on the field and active, I think you're in pure desperation mode if you're using either White or Tucker this week. Chris Godwin, as we stay with the Buccaneers, he's limited in practice on Thursday. And, you don't bring Bucky Irving back to give him 4 touches. You can bring back Chris Godwin to have him run, 14 routes and catch 3 passes, right? So I think that the situation with Chris Godwin is, for me, he really has to show me, right? If Chris Godwin is on the waiver wire and you want to add him because it looks like he's trending toward the possibility of playing this week, I'm okay with that decision. Am I starting Chris Godwin? You better be desperate. Just desperate. Or in some league where you start 5 wide receivers or something like that, because there is no telling, even if he's active, what his workload's going to be, how he's going to look. We have no clue. I'm not firmly convinced he plays this week anyway. But if he is active this week, Chris Godwin is absolutely not somebody that you should be trusting in your fantasy lineups. There's just too much going on there to feel comfortable about any decision with him. Where's my mouse? Oh, there's my mouse. Oh, there it is. Hello. Going back to the Niners, Ricky Pearsal is going to play this week. So Ricky Pearsal, who hurt his knee and it wasn't a big deal, who then missed, I think, 6 weeks. who we were hearing as recently as a couple days ago. We don't really know. Well, now we heard he's in. So here we go. I talked about this yesterday on the show here when we reviewed the Fab information, how I, in one league, have had Brandon Ayuk, how I dropped Brandon Ayuk and pivoted to Ricky Pearsal. Hopefully that ends up being the right move. It looks really good right now. Hopefully it ends up being the right move long term. But Pearsal should be back. Pearsal, I think there's a slight bit more confidence in Pearsal, for me at least, than there would be in Godwin. But at the same time, is this a situation where I feel good about it? And the answer is no. I think that it's reasonable, given all the time the Niners took with Pearsal, it's reasonable to think that playing this week means we're getting a full complement of snaps. He's, going to catch his 4 or 5 passes, and, okay, Brock Purdy being back helps that too. But I'd be very reluctant, as I always am, to play guys coming back from injury. Let's face facts. If you have been without Pearsal for 6 weeks, you've made other plans anyway. So cautious optimism for the returning Ricky Pearsal this weekend. Good news. Stopping a little bit short of a full-throated endorsement, though. DJ Moore was limited in practice yesterday, and this is the power of Jeff Mans is he says something and everyone listens. I think the negative of what that leads to some people is people make decisions that are reading too much into what Jeff has said. Jeff said on his one man's opinion, Jeff said earlier in the week on Tuesday in the waiver wire segment on SiriusXM, get Luther Burden, get him now. And so I probably got 12 questions yesterday with Luther Burden in Discord, like legitimately. Burden. And it got to be so aggressive that Jeff even went, because I told Jeff, so Jeff went on the show yesterday and clarified what he said, so everyone was very clear about what he meant with Luther Burden. Luther Burden is absolutely an addition right now if you've got a roster spot for a wide receiver. Absolutely without question. Okay. He is somebody that could pay off down the stretch. He is a extremely unattractive lockdown start at the moment. If DJ Moore plays with this shoulder injury, as it's trending toward happening, we got him, we got Adunze, we got the tight ends, we got the running backs. Like Burden's best case scenario, the wide receiver 3. Now that also comes down to what Jeff has talked about with Olamide Zaccheaus, who played a terrible football game last time out. Terrible. Dropped 3 passes. Okay. But it's very reasonable to think that it's Adunze, Olamide, DJ Moore, and Burden. So Burden could still be the 4th receiver on his own team right now. Now, that could all change. He could end up being the number 2 guy this weekend. There is a scenario where that happens, where Moore doesn't play and Zaccheaus gets his role cut because of that horrible game he played last week. But Burden's an addition right now. He's not a start right now. And a lot of the questions I was seeing is, people are making moves. It's like, ugh, no. You want to draft Travis Hunter who's hurt? Go for it, right? You want to draft Garrett Wilson who's hurt? Sure. But there were some other moves so be cautious here. I think a lot of people added Burden because they heard the advice, but they didn't get the information in a very timely manner, or they didn't get full clarity on the information. And you're right here. Mike G points it out, and Adam Schefter is just reporting. Oh, here we go. Bucky Irving will not play this week. We just talked about that, so Bucky Irving is out. Good timing, Adam Schefter. This is like 3 minutes ago. And Chris Godwin will not play this week. So as expected, Godwin, no. Bucky Irving, I think I said it was like 40% he'd play this week earlier with Jeff Mann. So that obviously was not, well, it was better that I was under 50-50, but still that's not accurate. Bottom line is this. Godwin is out, so Tez Johnson is still in our lives. Bucky Irving is out, so Rashad White and Sean Tucker are in our lives. Don't forget the rankings over at fantasyguru.com. They get updated every Friday night. Okay, so later tonight, and it could be late. It could be at 10 o'clock tonight, Jeff might do it. It could be at 2 in the morning. Sometime tonight, the rankings will be updated. You have that information and plenty of time to set your lineups this weekend. Thank you, Mike, for pointing that out. Appreciate you. Going back to the wide receiver spot, Jaguars wide receiver Brian Thomas got that ankle injury. He practiced yesterday. So, there's some hope here. We don't know how much time he's going to miss. We never really got, at least maybe I missed it, but I don't remember ever seeing 2 to 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. I don't think we ever got a true timeline on the ankle injury with Brian Thomas. But there's a chance, obviously, he could be active this week. Parker Washington, who had the hamstring injury that got everyone really nervous because he didn't practice Wednesday, he was back at practice yesterday, so that's good news. We'll get another week of Jacoby Myers, Jacoby Myers getting to work with Trevor Lawrence and understanding the playbook. So, this obviously Travis Hunter's still out, but this is starting to look, this is going to be what we're going to see from the Jags. We're going to see Thomas, we're going to see Myers and Parker Washington down the stretch as the 3 leading pass catchers for this team. Brenton Strange, we'll talk about him in a second. Maybe Brenton Strange will get involved. But good news for Brian Thomas, but again, not at all clear he's going to play this week. Speaking of Brenton Strange, he's got a hip issue. His 21-day window was opened, and so it's theoretically possible that he returns from his hip injury this week. We don't have any answer that that's going to happen. We don't have, reading tea leaves, he's been practicing, so this is good news. Now, a lot of times, guys limited in practice, what does that really mean? We're not privy to that. A lot of times the beat writers don't see everything. They don't even know. The reporting on injuries, as you're all aware, is very dicey at best in the NFL when it comes to health. Moving in the right direction. He is a player that I think in his 3 of his 4 games, he caught 4 or 5 passes. Like, he was heavily involved as a pass catcher. Now, it's different now. Hunter's out. Washington's ascending. Myers has been added. So, okay. But I think Brenton Strange is clearly somebody that Trevor Lawrence is comfortable throwing to, and he is part of this offense. And he is the Hunter Henry of these guys, right? He could be catching 4 or 5 passes for 45 yards. So might be in play as soon as this week. If he does indeed end up being active, I'd give it a week to see how it plays out with Brenton Strange. Sam LaPorta did not practice on Thursday, and that's now 2 days in a row, where his back issue has stopped him from practicing. It's not panic time with Sam LaPorta, but it's concern time. Back injuries are obviously notoriously difficult. Missing 2 days of practice, a lot of times guys will miss early in the week, and so today's injury report, massive importance for Sam LaPorta. You might have to make other plans. Brock Wright would be the guy that would step up there. Would I just grab Brock Wright as a direct 1-for-1 replacement? No. He would obviously be involved in the offense, though. But you would likely need to go in a completely different direction. I would not, again, to reiterate, pick up Wright if LaPorta is indeed ruled out. We'll have to watch the injury report there very closely. Dalton Kincaid, I think I saw that Dalton Kincaid, he's been ruled out. So that the dream of Dalton Kincaid playing this week is dead. Dawson Knox steps into his role. Dawson Knox, unlike Brock Wright, Dawson Knox is somebody who you could give consideration to starting this week. Would I expect him to catch, 5 passes for 65 yards and a touchdown like Kincaid? No. But he's a good all-around football player. He's a good blocker. He'll be on the field an awful lot. Haas will be there. That's the real problem here when you start getting behind the number 1 guy. Kincaid's the number 1 pass catcher, but they use 3 tight ends. That's what the Bills have done virtually all season long. With Haas and Knox roles increasing because of the injury to Kincaid, I would hate to see the 4-catch, 49-yard game from Knox and then the 1-catch, 3-yard touchdown Haas thing, which so Knox is in play. He's not a must start, but he's in play with the situation with Dalton Kincaid. And then finally, Dalton Schultz got a shoulder injury. He has not practiced the last 2 days. A couple of weeks ago, he followed a pattern of not practicing on Wednesday and Thursday, practicing on Friday, playing in the game. There's still hope. That's what we're going to see again today. Obviously, follow those injury reports closely with Dalton Schultz. We do know that Davis Mills is going to start for the Texans 1 more week at least on the sidelines. For C.J. Stroud, who we're hearing still experiencing concussion symptoms, that's not good. So hopefully he's back next game after this weekend for the Texans. We don't know yet. But keep an eye on Schultz, as we've discussed on this show many times and has been written about over at fantasyguru.com. Schultz is catching 5 passes every week, like 6 or 7 weeks or something. He's catching 5 passes every week. Now, he's only got 1 touchdown, but he's routinely going for the 10-point zone in a PPR setup for a tight end. And that is absolutely something that you should be interested in. Alejandro asked a question. I addressed this earlier. You must have just missed it. What is the status of Brandon Ayuk? We don't know. The team keeps saying, they've said multiple times this week that they expect him to play this season. We have no idea. He's not practicing. They haven't opened up his 21-day window. When they open up his 21-day window, I am certainly not assuming he's going to play the first week of that. Best case scenario, let's throw a number out there, randomly guessed week 14. But again, that number is completely made up. We have no idea when Ayuk is going to return. All we have heard from the Niners is that they plan to have him play this season. So there you go. AA Ron said, Ray, thanks for saying to start Trevion Henderson over Diggs. Got me all bricked up to start the week. Wish you could have played Diggs too. Diggs should have been started. Again, a lot of people end up in scenarios where they're not starting guys they should be starting because they have good teams and all this kind of stuff. Diggs was the top 20 wide receiver. He should have been active too. But yeah, I'm glad we went with Henderson there and that actually helped out to AA. All right. It is Friday. It's me in my vent. Let's add a third party to this show today. That third party is the one we usually see, the one we'd rather see than probably me and definitely the vent. That is Russell Clay of FantasyGuru.com. You can find him on Sunday nights over on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio from 6 to 9 Eastern with Justin Fensterman. They do a 3-hour recap show on Sunday nights. You can find him here every Friday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. You can find him on Tuesday nights doing the live stream over at FantasyGuru.com, answering questions, comments. He's always doing Dynasty stuff, including Wednesdays. He often does the party, the host, where he goes through and kind of has a conversation with y'all on TikTok and says, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? Then you tell him what you're thinking, and then he ignores what you're saying. No, he doesn't always do that. Sometimes he does that. But he has a good time interacting with you all. And as you can see it on the screen, you can get all of his amazing work as well as the entire team's by going to FantasyGuru.com, clicking the subscribe tab in the top right corner, signing up for the all-in NFL package. You can also send an email to support@FantasyGuru.com, support@FantasyGuru.com. Everything we do for football right now is one price. All the college football, all the NFL, all the betting, all the DFS, all the seasonal, $99.99 for the rest of the season. All right. Without further ado, let's bring in Russell Clay of FantasyGuru.com. How you doing, Russ?
Ray, I'm good. I've been thinking about your Brandon Ayuk statement. I'm trying to think of something comparable to when he's coming back. Like maybe when I start benching again, maybe when I don't have a good analogy right now. But what a mysterious man he is.
Well, Ricky Pearsal was a mysterious man. Then one day he was just active. Right. So we heard, he might practice today. And then 3 hours later, we heard he's going to play. And it's like, okay.
He's just fine now. It's like, okay, San Francisco.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
I wish I had an inside source here to explain the movements of the Niners. I don't. By the way, if you were wondering why my vent was here, I explained at the start of the show today. If you missed it, you, the listeners, or you, Russ, there was a new update with Microsoft. And somehow the update with Microsoft disabled my ability to control my camera. So I can no longer control it through Logitech. I now have to use the Microsoft app for the camera. So that's why it's showing. So thanks, Microsoft. For some reason, now I look red. Like I was in the sun for 13 hours. Microsoft is screwing me. So now I look like I'm a ghost. Okay, here we go. Let's talk some football with you, Russ. Thanks for joining us, as you always do. I know you're a Dynasty guy. I don't know if everyone knows that, but you're a Dynasty guy over at FantasyGuru.com. But obviously that doesn't just mean he's thinking 3 years down the road. Let's talk about a young quarterback. Where is J.J. McCarthy right now? Like, is he usable right now? I mean, there's some plays here and there. There's some bad decisions here and there. There's turnovers. What have you seen? Really early in his career, we sometimes forget that because technically it's his second season.
I'm fascinated. This is one of the more fascinating quarterback careers I've seen in a while because there is so many takes on J.J. McCarthy, and we have so little to go on. He's played like 4 NFL games.
Yeah.
He missed all of last year. We don't have nearly enough information to be making the proclamations. My theory, Ray, is there's a Michigan thing going on where he won a national championship at Michigan and people hate him. He's also on Minnesota, which is, there's a lot of fan bases that don't like him. Minnesota's so used to winning. But I get that it's year 2, but also keep in mind, he's like 3 years younger than Bo Nix. Like Jaden Daniels is 2 to 3 years older. Like Jaden Daniels was basically still at Arizona State when McCarthy is at his age he is now. He's 22 years old. So I don't know. My mind is not made up on McCarthy. And if the Vikings are going to move on from him, I guess maybe that's where we're at. And we're in an NFL where they just move on instantly. But I'm like, we are so early in this guy's career. We saw it with Darnold too, though, to be fair. Darnold didn't become a good quarterback till he was like 28. So that's 7 seasons, Ray. So when I look at this, I say this sucks right now. It's not been a good 4 starts. He has had some good fantasy results here and there, but overall, I'm very confused, I would say, is how I would describe this, because we're way too early. But people don't like JJ McCarthy, so they're happy about this right now.
Yeah, so we go from the way too early to the way too late at the quarterback spot with Joe Flacco. Bad matchup this week with Pittsburgh. Still, he's been doing his 2 touchdown thing every week, throwing the ball 87 times to Jamar Chase. What do you think this week of the matchup with the Steelers, 1? And 2, we've heard that Joe Burrow maybe, possibly, kind of, sort of could possibly be back in week 13. You think that's going to happen? Or do you think, because there's also the line of thought, well, they lose these next couple of games and he doesn't return this season. So what do you think about Flacco this week, and who's going to be their quarterback in week 15?
I really don't want Burrow to come back. I'd much, much rather it just be Flacco the rest of the season. We got a good thing going. I don't want it to change. Jamar Chase is getting like 15 to 20 targets a game. Let's just keep rolling with this. I get that Joe Burrow's better than Flacco, but I'd rather just keep rolling with this and see how it flies. I don't know how everyone else feels, but anyone who has Chase or Higgins, they've been doing better with Flacco than Burrow. So I don't know that we've lost much fantasy wise. Now, when it was Jake Browning starting, we lost a piece of our soul, Ray. But with Flacco in there, I mean, it's not much of a difference, as much as I hate to say it. So I'd rather them just roll with Burrow or roll with Flacco rest of the season, but we'll see.
Russell Clay at fantasyguru.com. Russ, you've got in the dynasty rankings over at fantasyguru.com, Travis Etienne just inside the top 25 at the running back position. And I think that's totally fair. I think a lot of people this season have been somehow disappointed with his performance, which is kind of odd to me, because I felt like coming into the season, there was much less expectations with Travis Etienne than there had been in the past. It's going to be a big finish here. We spent a lot of time talking about the receiving core and the quarterback, obviously, with the Jaguars. Is it just, 15, 18? Is he basically Breece Hall with these guys? They got to get in the end zone, because otherwise, on a per touch basis, they're not doing a lot.
We're in the weirdest running back season ever, because nobody is happy with their running backs, even the guys that are doing well. So, like, I saw a Bijan Robinson is having we're take locked on Bijan Robinson. I'm like, wait, whoa. 1,900 yard pace right now.
Right.
Like Breece Hall too, is on pace for like 1,700 yards this
Pretty
year,
good.
and nobody's happy with Breece Hall. Etienne has 800 yards in 9 games. He's on pace for 1,300 to 1,500 yards. And like you said, it seems like everyone's just disappointed with running backs. And it's because of that dang Christian McCaffrey. That dang Christian McCaffrey is making everyone upset. I don't know about Etienne. This Jaguars thing sucks. I got nothing. They are cratering to a degree I'm shocked to watch. It sucks. And I don't know, Ray. Do you have a take on Etienne? It feels like it's bad.
Yeah, it does. He's in a PPR setup. He's like running back 17. Like, I don't like what were people expecting? It wasn't
That's
like
right. That's exactly it.
I mean, you didn't spend a second round pick on Etienne. He wasn't coming off a 14 touchdown season. Like and I think it's really interesting, because you're right. Like this year, if everyone goes back with 4 months to the draft season, a lot of people were building around running backs early. Right. There was a change. A lot of us over at fantasyguru.com, we were talking wide receivers, but industry wide, there was a lot of running backs that were infiltrating the first and second round. And like you said, there's been McCaffrey, Achane, Gibbs, Bijan, and Taylor. And I guess Josh Jacobs too. You can throw him in there, right? James Cook too. All right. But Javonte Williams was taken much later in the draft. I don't think anyone loved Kyron Williams. Even the people taking him were kind of, No one drafted Rico Dowdle in any league. Saquon Barkley's been a huge disappointment. It hasn't gone... and I think the next guy is a perfect example. That Ashton Jeanty right now is like running back 13. Now he's like a touchdown in 10 yards away from being running back 11. So it's really tight. You've got Jeanty still as a top 5 dynasty option, even with all that we've seen to this point. And I know that Jeanty's ADP was, I don't know, was it 15, 18? So 13th at running back is not what people are expected. But there's still plenty of time for him to be a top 10 running back. And a rookie as a top 10 running back's not really a bad thing, is it, Russ?
Okay. And this is where I shift from other people. When I draft a guy, I'm drafting for the whole season unless something drastic changes. And that's just my philosophy. I'm not saying it's right. So for instance, if I draft Breece Hall, which I wasn't huge on Breece Hall, but if I did, I'm going to start him every week of the season and hope it works out, because that's my conviction. Unless something terrible happens. I mean, every year there's examples of guys where by midseason we say, okay, this isn't quite what I thought it was. But with a guy like Jeanty, you're surviving every week with this. You're not thriving. We're paycheck to paycheck with Ashton Jeanty right now. We're not in the mansion. But over the last 6 weeks, we got 36, 15, 16, 4, right? So there's a floor game, 19.9, 15.3. So it's pretty good. That is helping you win 5 out of the last 6 weeks. I just start him every week. Geno Smith's a disaster. I don't watch the games. And with Jeanty himself, this team's going to look entirely different next year. There's Geno's gone. They're going to have a lot of draft capital to build up this team that stinks. And we know with running backs, we saw this Saquon from the Giants to the Eagles. It's situation matters. The system matters. Who's around you matters. Jeanty's going to get the volume the next 3 to 5 years, no matter what. So that's why I'm not budging on Jeanty yet. I'm not budging on a lot of these guys. And look at like a guy like Travion Henderson, right? All we needed was a little more volume, and now we have a high-end RB1 that was a 0 a few weeks ago. So that is why with these rookie running backs that are super talented, we just need an angle to get into that goodness.
Russell Clay at fantasyguru.com. Jaylen Warren, he's kind of in that Travis Etienne zone too. Like, it's, he's been fine. He's like running back 20. The Steelers offense is just like, they're just trying to win 20-17 each week. Like, they don't have a great receiving core. They actually throw the ball to 4 different tight ends, which is preposterous. We've seen Gainwell step forward when Warren was out, but when Warren's been healthy, he's absolutely led the way. We got more coach speak this week saying he's going to lead the way the rest of the way. Any reason to think that things are going to change with Warren? Because though he has had bigger workloads than we're used to seeing from him as the lead back, he hasn't performed very well. None of the numbers are better than they were the last couple of years, and some of them are worse. Just a volume-based, low-end running back too. Is that kind of where we're at with Warren?
Yeah, that's where it's always been for me. I've never been too excited about Jaylen Warren, but if you drafted him this year, you're playing with some serious house money. You got a guy who's going to get you over 10 points just about every week. And those are not easy to find, as we've seen this year. So I like Warren for what he is. If you got him, you got a running back 3/flex. And that's not an easy thing to find. I mean, you see some of these guys people are starting right now, and you say, you know what, Jaylen Warren ain't so bad.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting because we get to see such a variety of builds and situations where trades have happened or waiver wire. Like, there'll be the person that say, I need 2 of Cook, Jeanty, and Kyren Williams. And we're like, whoa, like, how's this possible? And then there'll be people that I need 2 of Devin Singletary, Jordan Mason, and Sean Tucker. And it's like, whoa. So we see this broad spectrum. And I think there are a lot of people that look at Jaylen Warren, and I can tell you immediately, as you could too, Russ, if you're disappointed in Jaylen Warren, you're in a 10-team league, or you grab Dowdle off the waiver wire kind of thing. Like, it's very easy, because if I had Jaylen Warren, I'm playing him every week. It's never coming to my lineup. I just would be fine with that. So I think the running back position is really haves and have-nots for a lot of people. Let's talk about the wide receiver position. All the talk about A.J. Brown. I'm not going to ask you about A.J. Brown. I'm going to ask you about DeVonta Smith. who is the number one pass catcher on this team, who has been very consistent over the years, who obviously fits well with what this offense is trying to do, and Jalen Hurts. Any reason to think that this isn't something with DeVonta Smith that, dynasty-wise, let's talk about that just goes on for a couple of years? Like, it really seems like, he's not a superstar, but he's damn good and really productive.
He's just good.
Yeah.
He's just good. I don't even have a historical comp for DeVonta Smith. He's just good. He's going to be good. And I feel like that's the analysis here. Having the best year between him and AJ Brown. I don't think AJ Brown's going to be there next year, and I don't think they really care. This offense could be a one wide receiver offense, and they'd be totally fine. If AJ Brown's gone, which in the playoffs he matters, I don't know that he matters in the regular season, especially in some of these games against these bad teams. The Eagles just don't need to use him. So Smith is a good deep threat. It's clear him and Hurts have some chemistry, and overall it is what it is, right? He's going to have 50 to 80 yards most weeks. He's going to have that big ceiling game once or twice a year and end with 1,100, 1,200 yards. So that's what he is. And he could do this till he's 30. So I like Smith dynasty wise. I like him in season long, and you're pretty happy if you drafted him.
Russell Clay of fantasyguru.com every Friday at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. He joins us for about a half an hour. Talked earlier, Brock Purdy, another one of the Niners, as they slowly get healthy. Of course, that's never going to happen on defense because everyone's hurt or was traded in the offseason or left in the offseason. But on the offensive side of things, Brock Purdy is back. Jauan Jennings is starting to produce. I think part of that is because he's starting to get healthy. He's apparently, according to him, he had like 5 broken ribs. So he's starting to get a little healthier. And we know that while Kendrick Bourne and Mac Jones kind of had a thing, we know that Jennings and Purdy kind of have a thing. Anything to see with Jauan Jennings? Is he just wide receiver 33 and who cares? Or is there something potentially more here?
This does feel real. 7 or more targets in 3 of the last 4 games. And Kendrick Bourne was the reason. There were a few games there where Kendrick Bourne was getting featured over Jennings, even when he was active. And I think, Ray, looking back, we can clearly see they went in with the game plan like, oh, Jennings is super banged up. We can have him active, but we cannot feature him these weeks. So right. Kendrick Bourne, he's the man. He's doing some great off-field content with some of his stuff there. But in terms of on the field, seems like he's been phased out for Jennings here. And once Purdy comes back, you mentioned it, they've had chemistry in the past.
Giants made a change at quarterback this week because they had to. Jackson Dart's got the head injury. Jameis Winston's going to start. We don't know how much time Dart's going to miss. It could be a week, could be 2, could be the rest of the season. We just don't know. What we do know is that he and Jameson Williams, as we were talking about earlier in the week, you couldn't be more different. Young guy, old guy, pocket passer, athlete who can run, a guy who is turnover adverse versus the guy who doesn't give a flip if he turns the ball. Like, they're totally different. The problem for Winston here is who's he throwing the ball to? We all dreamed about what would happen 4 months ago if Winston was throwing the ball to neighbors. It would have been the Flacco to Chase thing. It would be 15 targets a week, right? Yeah. Not the case. Slayton's got the hamstring injury. We don't know if he's going to play this week. Not that he's a huge volume guy, but he's an important offensive piece. You could see him having, I said it earlier this week, 8, maybe he's getting 7 or 8 targets from Winston. Maybe he does. We don't know if he's going to play. So the number one receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson. But Wan'Dale Robinson's not a guy who high points of football, who Jameis Winston can throw the ball 40 yards down the sideline to. So what change should we expect, or should we expect any change in the production of Wan'Dale Robinson with Jameis Winston under center?
Fun. We're going to get a lot of fun, probably for the other team. We're going to get some crazy throws to Darius Slayton. We're going to get some... I don't think Jalen Hyatt. I feel like Jalen Hyatt hasn't been active for 3 years, but we'll probably get some random deep target that'll catch a touchdown. It's going to be a mess, but our mess, and no Dable anymore, Ray. So it's just, it's going to be a complete, let's see. We got Isaiah Hodgins,
Bo Collins.
Yeah. Jalen Hyatt still on this roster. Gunnar Olszewski is going to get a lot of random targets that are going to fly over his head. It's going to be a great time. I'm going to enjoy every moment of it. I'm going to watch every Giants possession. Tyrone Tracy. This offense just is not very good at this point in the season, but Jameis will make it fun and we'll have some laughs. And that's really what we're here for with Jameis at this point. So if you have to start him in fantasy, you know what you're getting. The guy threw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in a single season. That is Jameis, and it's going to be awesome. So that's what we're going to do.
What about Theo Johnson, his teammate? You think that because again, we saw his most productive volume game of the season was last week. He's basically been a 30-yard and I pray to get a touchdown or I got nothing kind of guy. But last week the role changed a little bit. Maybe a lot of this comes down to the health of Slayton or not. But is Theo Johnson potential tight end 1 catching passes from Winston?
I could see that. He did like his tight ends in Tampa. The only problem for me was it wasn't OJ Howard. He picked all the other random guys to throw to. So he does like that type of weapon, and Theo's been playing really well this year.
What about Colston Loveland? I know that you're a fan of Colston Loveland, and it took him a while to kind of find his footing and really find his footing in terms of producing offensively. Basically been because Cole Kmet's been hurt. And Loveland seems to be settling in as a 3 or 4 catch kind of guy, which is really useful in the real world, not really in the fantasy world. How would you assess his first season to date?
Oh, first season's been going great. Now, if you wanted him for redraft purposes, he's had 1 good game and the rest have been mediocre. Now, his volume has gone up over the last month. You mentioned Cole Kmet injury. Getting more big plays. They're using him more effectively in this offense, but it's year 1 for a tight end it's not just a year 1 tight end, it's a 21-year-old tight end. A lot of tight ends we see, they're coming in. Tyler Warren's like 24 this year. So that's like a vastly different being 21 in the NFL. Very few guys dominate at that age. You're talking like Zeke Elliott type guys, or like Todd Gurley's, but most players at 21 are not breaking out. Randy Moss, right? So it's guys like that, not Colston Loveland, Ray. So by year 2, 3, I think he's going to be fully featured in this offense, but it's a little too early.
Going to the chat room here, Robert B says the following. I think one thing a lot of the folks on staff at Fantasy Guru forget. So a lot of our competitors have terrible info. So those of us in the Elite Mafia beat folks on the waiver wire. That's how we end up with 4 strong running backs. If we give the impression that we don't appreciate or understand that, Robert, I apologize. I think the frustration that we deal with on our side is that, I've been in all these leagues, and you don't know the competition level in the league. Just because you're paying for money or playing for free, you have no idea. And it is difficult because a lot of people, if you're in the FFPC, like you can't even trade, right? And the waiver wire is fierce. If you're in a random league on Schmahoo or something like that, it's frustrating from an analyst perspective if you have 4 top 15 running backs, because the answer is yes. The answer is not which one. The answer is yes. And so I think the frustration is all of us would die to have 2 top 15 running backs on our teams. Maybe there's jealousy because they have 4. What do you think, Russ?
My honest opinion is I don't put nearly as much brain power as all of you do into start sits. I log into my league, I look at my roster, and I say, all right, well, let's see this. And then I don't even change the lineups most of the weeks. So when you guys come in and there's 3 or 4 start sits every week of like really complicated within 1 point projection type players, I just look at that and say, that's not how I play fantasy football. I start the same guys almost every single week unless something drastically changes, like a Brock Bowers gets hurt, then I have to stream. But it's like, if I have to stream, I pick a guy. I do not think about it at all. Like I do the analysis, I pick the guy, I put him in my lineup, and I don't think about it again. And I would love you guys to have that type of conviction in yourself. I feel like you guys have all the right information. You built this great team, and then you're stressing about stuff that I don't want to say doesn't matter, but if you built a great team, focusing on one or two micro situations is not good for your fantasy football health here. I look at it this way. Okay, so we have 2 games for 2 individual players here, right? This is like, in those montages when they pan out and it's the little guy, and then it's the building, and then it's the sky, and then it's the world, and then it's the galaxy. Like, okay, you're putting all this effort into like 2 micro matchups, and then you go out and it's like, it's your team this week, and then it's your team for the half season, and then it's your team over the full season. And you're not even going to remember week 3 start sits in a month, right? But you're putting so much pressure on yourself to get something. And all I'm saying is, if you have 4 running back ones, just make a decision, go with it, high conviction. And it's okay to be wrong if you have a good team. Like, if you have a great team, which I do have some really good teams this year, I get stuff wrong and start sits, and it does not matter because I'm going to win by 30 anyway. So I've some bad teams too, and you could argue those start sits don't matter as much either. But the point is, like, if you build a good team over the course of a season, it's all going to work out, and you're going to get stuff right. You're going to get stuff wrong. But if you have a good team, it won't matter. So that is how I do it. So when I see you guys like really in pain over these start sits, I just say it's 1 week, it's 1 matchup, and you have, you're starting 10 guys. 1 bad start sit's not going to crater your team.
Yeah, because your opponent might have 4 bad, right? I mean, and I think, too, that, and this is why Jeff Mans talks about it a lot, the depth chart, setting the depth chart. And I know in theory it doesn't make any sense. And I've never really been a big proponent of it until this year, because we have so many people who have built those great teams over at fantasyguru.com. You're asking, which of these 3 guys do I play? And we have them ranked 11, 13, and 14. It's like, they're the same guy. And I think a lot of people in their minds think that there's a drastic difference between player 11 and player 14. And like you said earlier, there isn't. They're basically the same guy. And so if you're every week trying to play the matchups, you're never going to win. You just set your lineup. You got Breece Hall, just put him in your lineup. You got Jaylen Warren, just put him in just leave him. Just set it and forget it. Set your depth chart and just do it week after week.
And if you have 2 good start sits that are really close, sometimes one's going to be the clear right. Sometimes one's going to be the clear wrong. A lot of the time, it's going to be within 2 to 3 points in that final result. And then you did all that stressing for 2 points one way or the other. So I just share all this. I'm not mad. I'm not like upset with anyone. I'm just sharing with you guys what I do. And I see you guys like in pain over there. And I'm like, man, I don't think about the start sits this much. If I look at Jeff's rankings and I'm having a tough time, I just go, okay. Or, I hear Ray say something, or I read Rich's article, or Tyler's got a sports bet. I'll just go with that, and it'll be like, all right, well, that's where the world took me this week. So I don't know. That's where I'm at.
Ethan B's got a question. This one's a difficult question because, again, these are not necessarily elite players, but there's a lot of across-the-board similarity here. Trey Benson's not going to play this week. I don't think that's going to happen. But Kenneth Walker, Chase Brown, Kamani Vidal, and Quinshon Judkins, kind of same-ish, right? You can have a favorite or not. You can look at one guy and be more pro or con. You can look at matchups. Of these 4 guys, because again, Benson's out. Walker, Brown, Vidal, Junkins. Do you have two favorites that pop out to you this week, Russ?
So I know the Judkins thing is frustrating because he has games where the Browns offense gets shut down.
Yeah, so someone else mentioned that in chat too. Yeah.
It's really hard to sit him though. I feel like those that have Judkins know what I'm talking about, where it's really hard to sit him because the talent's so high. This Ravens defense, he's got a lot of good matchups in the second half. I would just go Judkins and Vidal, but I get the Chase Brown thing too.
Yeah, and again, this is a prime example. The rankings right now, and they'll be updated again tonight over at fantasyguru.com. But right now, Judkins is 18, Vidal is 21, Brown is 22. So they're all the same. They're all the same. It's exactly what we were talking about. They're all the same guy. Set a depth chart. That'd be my recommendation, and just go with the same guy every week. Mike G asked a question: should we be trading Trevion Henderson? I'm not in any leagues that can still trade. The leagues I was in that allowed trading are now blocked trading, but some leagues can still do trading. The Patriots still have a bye in week 14, which a lot of people don't seem to have noticed, because I'm getting a lot of questions about people trying to add Patriots. Like, they don't play in week 14. You obviously just had Henderson play last night, which increases his trade value. But now you're talking about, if you trade him, person getting him doesn't get week 11, and they don't get week 14 either. So I don't know. Do you hold? Do you sell? I mean, obviously there's a lot more to it, but what would be your general advice with that, Russ?
I'm just holding. Listen, Mike Vrabel, as much as I joke, he's a great coach. He's going to stuff Ramondre Stevenson back in there, Mike. We know this. I know this. You know this. I'm just going to keep riding Henderson. Hopefully it works out. But yeah, there are concerns. I guess if you can guess, shoot for the stars, Mike. If you can get a package for Bijan, if the Bijan owner's frustrated right now, fire away. But I would he seems like a good guy to have on my team. But I hear you.
Let's see. I'm trying. There was one more question. Where was it? There it is. Robert. Question. We don't know about Dobbins. We're assuming he's out. There's been the report that he could go on IR. We still haven't seen that officially. RJ Harvey, and this is the question from Robert. If Dobbins is out, it's very logical to say, oh, we'll just put RJ Harvey in the exact same spot in the rankings. Running back one for the Broncos, running back one for the... Okay. They're different players, though, right? Harvey's much more likely to catch passes than Dobbins was. We don't know what we know what the split looks like now with Dobbins and Harvey. If Dobbins is out as expected, we don't know what the split's going to be with Harvey, Beatty, and McLaughlin. Beatty and McLaughlin are technically pass-catching third down backs, but that's the role they've been using Harvey in. So does Harvey end up just with 22 touches and they just go for broke? Or is Harvey going to get 12 touches, Beatty's going to get 3, and McLaughlin's going to get 4? How do you, I know, right? How do you see this playing out?
And I'm an RJ Harvey guy, and I feel like I'm the hater in this situation. I don't trust Sean Payton at this point. I loved the RJ Harvey pick, and I still think he's got a very bright future. This Sean Payton fella has got me in a blender, man. I thought they were going to use him from week 1. They drafted him in round 2. Right. He's this hyper explosive running back. But we got to remember, everyone's talking about they're not going to bring someone in off the street. Dobbins came in off the street and bullied my boy RJ Harvey. So I don't know. I'm starting RJ Harvey where I have him.
Right.
But it's a rough matchup this week.
Philadelphia.
And I'm more looking towards that Commanders matchup in a few for where the RJ Harvey breakout's going to happen. But I do view him as a starter, but like you mentioned, totally different than Dobbins.
Stefan, one last question here before we let you run for your circa discussion here that you'll have a little bit. DeMarcado or Burden? See, this is another one. This is the other end of the spectrum. These are two guys. It's like, well, yeah, versus the, hey, which one of these 4 top 25 guys? I talked about Burden earlier. To me, Burden's a no-go unless Moore is out or we get some information that Olamide Zakai is going to have his role scaled back. So I'm going to lean DeMarcado. Still don't have full health situation with Bam Knight. I don't think Benson plays. And DeMarcado has been extremely explosive. His touch count just hasn't been very high. What do you think?
I'd go DeMarcado too. I like that play. He's been playing well. And Ray, he may have had this starting gig a while ago had he not made
Absolutely.
that fumble, right? So he looks pretty good. And with Brissett, they actually have a steady. The only problem for them is that defense. So yeah, I like him. And Burden versus Moore. I don't know how that's shaking out.
Russ Clay of fantasyguru.com. Again, he joins us every Friday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. We go about 30, 35, 40 minutes or whatever, depending it might be. Russ, what do you got going on the next couple of days here before your 6 to 9 show on SiriusXM on Sunday night?
Yeah, so we have the Circus Show, where myself and Rob Brink go through the staff's picks against the spread. We have, of course, a bunch of content coming out throughout the week, so definitely go check that out. And live stream on Tuesday. And guys, we're more than halfway through the season, so we are on the playoff grind. Lots of trades this week, so good time to be in fantasy football.
And the vent makes an appearance right at the end, right on schedule. Perfect. Thank you, Microsoft. Russ, thanks for your time today. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you a week from now. Have a good week 11 and a great weekend.
Oh.
He's Russ. I'm Ray. We'll be back on Monday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'll spend about an hour blasting through all the Sunday action, going game by game, team by team, what you need to know. Look for that on Monday. And head over to fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Send the email to support@fantasyguru.com. And get signed up for the fun. Be part of the Elite Mafia with us over at FG. For Russ, I'm Ray. Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com. Have a great weekend.